Comparison between Professor Norman Jones's engineering research and Gerald C. Shu's medical research, number 1363, VMT Sharp 704, September 21, 2025. Gerald C. Shu, EclaireMD Foundation. Category, Methodology. Engineering Professionals. Introduction. Engineering and medicine may appear to belong to entirely different worlds, but both are ultimately concerned with systems under stress, the energy they absorb, and the conditions that lead to failure. Professor Norman Jones spent more than 6 decades investigating how metallic and composite structures deform and sometimes collapse under blasts, impacts, and extreme loading. 4 decades later, his student Gerald C. Shu, originally an engineer and entrepreneur, applied many of the same concepts, dynamic plasticity, viscoplasticity, and energy absorption, to human organs, disease progression, mortality prevention, and public health. This paper offers a comparative review of Jones's pioneering engineering contributions and Shu's later biomedical applications, showing how fundamental principles of physics, mathematics, and energy theory illuminate both fields. Professor Norman Jones, 6 decades of impact engineering. Early foundations. Norman Jones's journey began with a government-sponsored mechanical apprenticeship. In the 1950s, this hands-on training in machines and industrial design gave him a practical foundation that he later merged with advanced theory. He continued to the University of Manchester Institute of Science and Technology, UMIST, where he earned top honors, a first-class degree in 1961, a Master of Science and Technology in 1962, and a PhD in 1965. His doctoral research examined the elastic behavior of pressure vessels and pipelines. He integrated theory, experiment, and computation, at a time when computers were primitive and scarce. At Manchester he used the pioneering Mercury and Atlas computers, machines that represented the forefront of computing in the 1960s. This exposure shaped his lifelong method of combining mathematics, laboratory tests, and computational analysis to uncover the behavior of complex systems. North American period, 1965 to 1979. In 1965 Jones moved to the United States, with his wife Jenny, to begin an academic career that would span more than a decade across 3 institutions. He taught at Georgia Institute of Technology, Brown University, and then Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, starting in 1968. At Brown he collaborated with Paul Simons and other pioneers in dynamic plasticity, redirecting his focus toward impact phenomena. His early studies revealed that, when beams and plates were modeled with finite geometry changes, they absorbed far more energy under impulsive loads than rigid plastic theory predicted. This breakthrough launched his lifelong exploration of dynamic plasticity. At MIT, from 1968 to 1979, Jones expanded his work on beams, plates, and shells under explosive and impulsive loading. He showed that even simple rigid plastic models could approximate experiments remarkably well, making them invaluable tools for preliminary design. His work intersected with naval architecture and ocean engineering. He analyzed ship slamming, ice impact damage, hull girder collapse, and the pseudo-shakedown concept, where structures subjected to repeated impacts eventually settle into stable deformations instead of catastrophic failure. Note from the author, this pseudo-shakedown behavior closely resembles Shu's later biomedical observations of how human organs adapt to chronic stress. Jones also studied creep buckling, dynamic buckling, and higher mode responses, expanding the classical limit analysis framework. During this period he formed lasting collaborations with scholars such as Tomasz Wierzbicki, further broadening his impact. Liverpool and the Impact Research Center, 1979 onward. In 1979, Jones returned to the United Kingdom to become Professor of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Liverpool. He served as head of department, later as the A. Griffith Professor, and finally as Emeritus Professor. Over the next 3 decades he supervised dozens of graduate students, hosted international collaborators, and turned Liverpool into a world-class center for impact research. He co-organized the first international symposium on structural crashworthiness in 1983, an event that grew into a global series. That same year he co-founded the International Journal of Impact Engineering, serving as editor and editor-in-chief for more than 2 decades. His Liverpool group advanced nearly every aspect of impact mechanics: dynamic buckling of thin-walled shells, pseudo-shakedown under repeated loadings, plate perforation, impact on pressurized pipelines, shear failures, and post-failure responses of beams and plates. His collaborative studies on progressive buckling of tubes, crashworthiness of top hat and double hat sections, and behavior of strain rate sensitive materials remain reference standards for energy-absorbing structural design. One of his important insights involved scaling laws. He showed that plastic deformations scaled reasonably well when adjusted for strain rate effects, but failure modes often broke scaling. This finding had vital implications for naval, aerospace, and automotive engineering. Integration of theory, experiment, and computation. Jones consistently emphasized the integration of theory, experiment, and computation. From his early hand-drawn free body diagrams to his use of supercomputers, he warned that computation alone is insufficient, unless validated against both theory and experiment. He highlighted counterintuitive behaviors, such as displacement, reversal or sudden buckling transitions, that only theory could clarify. He also advanced scaling approaches by using dimensionless parameters to condense experimental results into universal curves. These curves became practical design tools, enabling engineers to predict behavior across a wide range of conditions. Note from the author: dimensionless parameters are also applied in the author's viscoplastic energy studies, since biomarkers, lifestyle factors, and disease severity markers all carry different units. Broader reflections and legacy. In his later reflections, Jones noted the dramatic evolution of the field, from hand calculations and scarce journals in the 1960s to the computational abundance and publication explosion of the 21st century. Despite these advances, he insisted that fundamentals, mechanics, thermodynamics, free body diagrams, remain essential. He also tied structural impact engineering to environmental sustainability, introducing an energy absorption effectiveness factor to evaluate crashworthiness devices not only for safety, but also for material efficiency. Jones authored more than 300 papers and the authoritative book, Structural Impact, 1989, 2012. He received major honors including Fellowship of the Royal Academy of Engineering, Foreign Fellowship of the Indian National Academy of Engineering, and honorary professorships in China. He gave keynote lectures worldwide, including the Institution of Mechanical Engineers Isaac Newton Lecture, which he was invited to repeat multiple times due to its popularity. Conclusion on Jones. From pressure vessels to ship collisions, Norman Jones reshaped the understanding of how structures absorb energy under extreme conditions. His insistence on integrating theory, experiment, and computation, his establishment of institutions and journals, and his dedication to mentoring ensured that his influence extended far beyond his own lifetime. Note from the author: Jones probably never imagined that, 4 decades later, his student Chu would apply these same principles, dynamic plasticity and viscoplasticity, to the biomedical arena, analyzing organ behavior, mortality diseases, and public health concerns. Gerald C. 5 decades of industry and medicine. From engineering to business leadership, Gerald C. studied under Norman Jones at MIT between 1972 and 1976. Jones remained a lifelong mentor and role model. After MIT, Shu pursued a diverse engineering and business career. He helped develop the world's first portable personal computer, and advanced AI algorithms for semiconductor IC design, automation, technologies that still underpin modern AI chips and applications, including systems like ChatGPT. In 1995 he became the first Asian American to serve as the highest-ranking CEO on Wall Street. NASDAQ, measured by company stock value, transitioned to medical research. After developing multiple severe illnesses, Shu shifted his focus in 2010 to medical research. His goal was both personal, saving his own life, and scientific, by applying his training in mathematics, physics, and engineering to medicine. Encouraged by Professor Jones in December 2010, Shu extended viscoplastic energy concepts to human organ health and chronic diseases that can lead to mortality. Through his GH method, Math Physical Medicine, MPM, and its central framework, Viscoplastic Medicine Theory, VMT, Shu has studied obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, stroke, dementia, neuropathy, retinopathy, and cancers. Rather than analyzing beams or shells, Shu applies stress-strain interaction, energy modeling and time-dependent strain to human organs, biomarkers, and lifestyle factors. His work is validated by more than 4 million self-collected data points spanning 16 years. Shared approaches. Although Jones and Shu worked in different domains, their intellectual strategies show remarkable parallels. System focus: both analyze nonlinear, dynamic, plastic, and irreversible behavior. Energy as foundation: both treated energy as the unifying metric, not statistical averages. Prevention: Jones emphasized preventing catastrophic collapse of structures or machines, while Shu emphasizes preventing irreversible organ failure and premature death. Gerald C. and viscoplastic medicine. Overview: Shu developed the GH method, MPM, with VMT at its core to meet the needs of his medical research work. He modeled human health as a nonlinear, dynamic, plastic system under multiple stressors, much like structural, mechanical, or aerospace systems. Core approach: stress-strain energy modeling, biomarkers such as fasting glucose, blood pressure, visceral fat, walking steps, sleep hours, and stress scores function as stressors. Their cumulative impact produces strain, defined as disease burden or mortality probability. Normalization factors, healthy baselines, BMI 25, FPG 90, SBP 120, VF% 13, nightly sleep hours. 7. Daily walking steps 10,000 to 15,000, allow dimensionless indices, comparable across individuals. Multi-scale analysis, he studies both macro annual trends and micro daily fluctuations. For example, low-frequency glucose waves cause gradual irreversible vascular damage over long term, while high-frequency blood pressure waves cause a single, acute surges capable of rupturing cerebral vessels. Validation, with over 4 million data points and real-world outcomes, 5 cardiovascular events, severe kidney issues, neuropathy, retinopathy, and a hemorrhagic stroke in June 2025, his models are rigorously validated. All of the data on these mortality diseases, unfortunately, came from Shu's own body. He often jokes that God gave him each deadly disease once, as a wake-up call to learn about it, and then share that knowledge with others to help prevent the same fate. With this humorous attitude, he has been able to sustain his medical research journey. Methods: VMT energy diagrams with multiple stressors and a single selected strain. Energy contribution ratios to quantify individual influence. Neural network AI models to detect outliers and provide early signs. Cross-national studies comparing different population study results in the US, Japan, Taiwan, and the UK, against my personalized medicine study results. Key findings: 1. Lifestyle-based risk models can quantify disease progression without medications, separating natural pathophysiology from pharmaceutical effects. 2. Reversible versus irreversible stress. Short spikes in hyperglycemia or hypertension can be reversed, but long-term low-frequency glucose waves cause permanent vascular damage, such as calcification and stiffness, which account for nearly half of global mortality. 3. Lifestyle as energy absorber, proper diet, sufficient daily exercise, high-quality sleep, low emotional stress can delay systemic failure. 4. Early prevention is essential. Once vascular footprints are established, neither lifestyle change nor medication can fully reverse the damage. Parallel comparison. Domains: Jones studied metals and structures, Shu studies human biology. Approach: both use simplified, energy-based models to capture nonlinear dynamic plastic behavior. Methods: Jones validated with crash tests, Shu validates with self-collected biomarker data from his own body. Conclusions: Jones produced design rules for safer structures. Shu develops models for preventing disease and death. Both aim to guide practitioners, engineers in one case, medical professionals and patients in the other. Synthesis: despite the disciplinary gulf, Norman Jones and Gerald C. Shu share a deep intellectual kinship. Both interpret the world through nonlinear, dynamic, plastic systems, where energy determines survival. For Jones, the lesson was to design structures from the beginning, to absorb energy without collapsing. For Shu, the lesson is to manage lifestyle stressors, and, when necessary, use medications early enough to prevent irreversible vascular and organ damage. Both reject the simplicity of statistical averages, recognizing the real world as nonlinear, dynamic, and irreversible. Both leave legacies of practical guidance, Jones to engineers, building safer, stricter machines, and Shu to doctors and patients striving for healthier, longer lives. Conclusion: the comparison between Norman Jones's engineering research and Gerald C. Shu's medical research highlights a unifying truth. Principles from mathematics and physics illuminate both structural and biomedical systems. Viscoplasticity is not confined to metals under impact, but extends to living tissues and organs under chronic stress. Jones's work improves structural safety against blast and crash. Shu's work aims to improve human resilience against aging and chronic disease. Both converge on the same purpose: saving lives. Disclaimer: this content is provided for educational reference only, and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights related to medicine from this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C. Shu.